What's up, party people? Welcome back to the all-new season of Nerd Central. I'm your host, Krista Ott, the biggest sign that you've turned in to quality content. We have a great show for you today. There will be lightsaber fights, the evolution of cultural diversity in film, and product reviews. Yes, we are really branching out this season. But we are changing one thing. We have gotten rid of Nerd Showdown. None of you really liked that part anyway. In its place will be something much more helpful. Theater tickets are expensive, so we have teamed up with KXCV's The Best Take to inform you what movies you can watch rather than what's new in theaters at the moment. Now say goodbye to all those formalities and let's kick it to the news. Fast and Furious continues to be the franchise that refuses to die more than a horror villain. That's right, the trailer for Fast and Furious 9, which is actually 10th film because of Hobbs and Shaw, we see the savior of action, Vin Diesel, trying once more to live a simple life since he has a kid now. But in classic action movie fashion, something is going to push him over the edge. Just knowing trends in this industry, we're going to take a wild guess and say because of this child's existence, either the kid is going to die to motivate Vin Diesel, or Vin Diesel is going to die to make a better life for his son. But I guess we're just going to have to wait until it releases to find out. While Star Wars is still on everyone's minds, I have some unfortunate news for you. Cue the sad music. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series everyone has been clamoring for has been indefinitely delayed and may even be cut down to only 4 episodes. The supposed reason for these problems is troubles with naturally progressing the script. See, that's the thing with Star Wars news lately. Just when you think it's starting to move forward, it proceeds to take multiple steps back. Guys, Fox's X-Men movies somehow aren't dead yet. Even though 20th Century Fox has been transformed into 20th Century Pictures, one more of their X-Men films is still coming out, and it's one we thought we'd never see. That's right, New Mutants is apparently still a thing despite the first trailer coming out over 2 years ago, and then going into complete radio silence. Well, with a new trailer that came out at the beginning of the year, we can finally confirm New Mutants will be releasing April 3rd this year. We're going to take a quick break, but don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more delicious content after these messages. Welcome back to Nerd Central. We were gone for a minute, but we are back now. And we have one more piece of news for all you DC fans out there. Joker has been nominated for 11 different Oscars. The controversial film premiered back in October to middling reviews from critics, but high praise from audiences, and became the first R-rated film to make $1 billion. How many Oscars it will actually win is of course up in the air, but we are extremely hopeful that a comic book movie finally has a chance at winning Best Picture. Now let's head over to Wesley, where he will talk about a movie that was not so fortunate when it comes to Oscar buzz. He will then be followed by Kaylin with Marvelous. Take it away.
What's up, suckers, and welcome to the very first episode of Black Exploration. I am your host, Wesley Ellington, and this is a show where we will dig into some of the most iconic films and TV shows in Black culture's history. Now, the first half of the show will be reviewing the movie or TV show, and the second half will be discussing the cultural impact. So without further ado, this is... And the first movie that we are doing is Dolomite, the 1975 comedy drama-ish thing that came out from the vision of Rudy Ray Moore. Now, during the making of this film, Rudy Ray Moore was a successful comedian within the black community. He was known for making these raunchy comedy albums that I would actually play for you if I didn't want to have a second episode of Black Exploration. The movie Dolomite is about a pimp recently released from prison who was determined to enact revenge on the man who set him up, Willie Green. And that's kind of the whole story. I mean, the other part that's kind of cool, I guess, is that he has an army of kung fu killers that are all women. So that's cool, I guess, you know. Not that women can't be kung fu killers, but it's weird, and that's kind of the whole thing with this movie is It's weird, and it's like really bad. I mean, I watched it a couple months ago, like officially as a grown adult, and I can honestly say that it's one of the worst films I've ever seen. But I mean, it fills all of the boxes of a normal blaxploitation film at the time. I mean, it has violence, it has sex, it has gangsters. I mean, what are you missing? And I'll tell you what they're missing. It's actually like good filmmaking. The movie just wasn't done well. I mean, there's a lot of audio problems with it. Visually, it wasn't really appealing, but it was funny for what it was. And I'll honestly get into it later when I talk about more of the cultural impacts of the movie. But right now, just looking at it as a film, just comparing it to other films at the time and that came out from the same studios, it's just not good. It's not good. But being a bad film at this time and also having representatives of black people didn't really have to be a good movie. It just had to be a movie, and that's exactly what it was. It was a movie. I mean, it was an hour, 45 minutes, and it had cameras, it had actors, and they had lines. So that's what makes a movie. But let's get to a much more flattering part about this film, the cultural impact. Now, first off, as you've heard probably, Eddie Murphy made an entire film about the leading up to this movie, Dolomite, and it's nominated for a lot of awards. But Rudy Ray Moore's impact far exceeds just comedic actors. And when I say that, I'm talking about rappers. Rappers like Snoop Dogg, who you see on screen now, was inspired by Rudy Ray Moore. I mean, a lot of rappers like Dr. Dre even sampled him on some of his albums. A rapper named Dale the Funky Homo Sapien actually said that he set the blueprint for rap music. And it's something that's kind of interesting to me because you never really hear that a lot, that comedic actors set the tone for music. Now, obviously, these are the big names in hip-hop and rap that actually credit Dolomite to being something that they look up to. But in 1990, Big Daddy Kane actually had Dolomite on a record. Now, I actually had some trouble finding some information behind the track, like whether it did anything chart-wise or it was successful. It was obviously incredibly profane because it has Dolomite, the character, in it, so I can't play it for you guys. I apologize about that. In the movie Dolomite Is My Name, the movie with Eddie Murphy in it, he actually had a character that was a child that was like rapping, saying that he was stealing a lot of the stuff that Dolomite was doing. It was sort of nodding towards rappers having this big influence from Dolomite, and it kind of leaned like it was Biggie, but Biggie Smalls, that is Notorious B.I.G. for people who don't know. And it's really interesting to see that the movie thought that was important enough to talk about, so they made it a part of the movie, and not a big part, but a part that you catch it and like, that makes sense. But the movie Dolomite came out in 1975 to horrible critical reviews, but the people that enjoyed the movie, they enjoyed it for the rest of their lives. And that's exactly what I'm talking about this film. The film had such an impact on the culture that we're still talking about it 40 plus years after its release. That's rare for even Oscar-winning films. Now, I am excited to talk to you guys about better films that had better cinematography, better acting, better lines, and that will come. But I also am excited to talk to you guys about the cultural impact that movies and TV shows has, not just on black culture, but as a culture as a whole. Rap music is now the most popular music on the planet, and that can all be credited to Rudy Ray Moore. And that's all that I have to say about Dolomite. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll be making many more about much better movies and still tackling the impact of the movie or TV show. I hope you dug it, and we'll see you next time on
Hello and welcome to the first episode of Marvelous. I'm your one and only host and Marvel nerd, Kaylin Byland. Here on Marvelous, we're looking at the origins of characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and their iconic powers and weapons that makes them superheroes. First up is Tony Stark's Iron Man. Tony Stark first premiered in 2008, starting off the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Young Tony Stark was a mechanical engineering genius and at the age of 21 took over his father's company, Stark Industries, launching it into a successful manufacturing corporation mainly selling weapons. The millionaire inventor and arms manufacturer soon changed his role. After showing off his new Jericho missile in Afghanistan, a terrorist group by the name of the Ten Rings planted an explosion and a piece of shrapnel hit Tony Stark. The shrapnel worked its way towards his heart, and without any help, Tony would die. Taken hostage by the Ten Rings, Stark is imprisoned with Professor Ho Jensen, who makes his magnetic chest plate to prevent the shrapnel from entering Stark's heart. While being held captive, Stark and Jensen are forced to build the new missile. However, instead of building the weapon, Jensen and Stark build the first suit of armor that would become the invincible Iron Man. Building the armor around the chest plate, Tony Stark uses the suit to escape and return to America. Upon returning, Tony Stark had a change of heart and used his new armor to aid mankind and defend the world against evil. Without the suit of armor, Tony Stark has no superpowers of his own. The powerful suit enables Tony to fly, shoot beams of energy from his hands and chest, grants him superhuman strength, protects him from damage, and resists the vacuum of space. Now, Tony Stark is identified by the armor he wears, and the suits are constantly being redesigned to face the new challenges that Tony Stark meets on a daily basis, with at least 53 in the MCU. And now, we're going to take a look at a part of the iconic suit, the Iron Man helmet. Woo! No, like I said, we're here to talk about the Iron Man helmet. Now, this helmet holds a very special place in my heart because Iron Man, he's the one who started the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he's the one who saved the universe as well. Not only that, but this helmet is the first of my collection amongst many more that you'll get to see later on. Anyway, this helmet is, I'm guessing, a Mark III, with Mark I being the suit Tony used to escape the cave, and Mark II just being the updated version of Mark I with the all-silver suit. Mark III is the one which we associate the iconic Iron Man suit with the hot rod red and the gold colors. Now, one thing I appreciate about this is the amount of detail that went into making this. Like, it tries to replicate the actual suit as much as possible, making you feel like Iron Man when you're wearing it, and it just makes you feel so powerful. Along with that, it has like many adjustments on the inside where it can fit anybody's head. And it even lights up. That's freaking cool. And even though it lights up, it also makes these sounds, which honestly, I think it sort of makes it sound tacky. Overall, I think this is a wonderful collector's item, and I actually wish it came with like a functioning Iron Man suit, but I guess this will work for now. Well, anyway, that concludes our first episode. I hope you had a wonderful time. In fact, a marvelous time. Be sure to tune in next time where we will dive into everything Marvel. I'm Kaylin Byland.
Thanks, guys. We love you 3000. Do you really want to see Birds of Prey this weekend, but can't afford those expensive movie tickets and snacks? Well, after the break, the boys from The Best Take will suggest the next best thing with Slightly Off. Stay tuned, and thank you for choosing Nerd Central.
Welcome back to Nerd Central. We are The Best Take. I am your host, Cody Nance. With me is William Linder.
Howdy.
Wesley Ellington.
What's going on?
And Kyle Harris.
Hey guys.
Now, movies are expensive. We all know this, right?
For sure.
And we can't get to the theater every week. So, in case you can't see Birds of Prey this weekend, we have brought you the next best thing. Our favorite movie about bird watching, The Big Year.
Whoa! Whoa!
Now, Kyle, you've seen this film more than most of us. Why don't you give us the rundown on what The Big Year is?
Okay, I want to start by saying I'm not some like freak who's seen this movie 10 times. I'd seen it one time before I showed it to you guys. But it's a movie about 3 bird watchers played by, you have Jack Black, Owen Wilson, and Steve Martin. And basically they're all competing to see the most birds in 1 year in a competition that they all call The Big Year. And I guess this is a real life competition.
Wait.
Yeah, Wes,
I haven't seen this movie yet.
Yeah.
So this is just all new information. So they have to see the most birds within a year.
Like different types.
The most types of birds.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
but you can only count crow once.
Now here's the thing about that though. You have to see as many birds as you can in one, full calendar year. Yet, it's not based on pictures or evidence or like clear things. It's about like trust, you know?
honor
So you just
system.
can say, oh, I saw like 10 birds today that were all different. That's how they do it.
You don't have to prove it. Yeah, and like the thing about it is throughout this movie, our three main characters are constantly lying to each other about even being in this competition. Like,
I mean, they don't want to like, if somebody knows that you're going for a big year, is what they call it, they might work even harder to win that year. Whereas if you can keep it a secret, they might think I got this clear, so I'm not going to try that hard to see that many birds.
So like
they're all faking each
maybe
other
taking an example of that with this film is Steve Martin and Jack Black. Because Steve Martin in the film plays a heavy CEO kind of guy who's basically on the verge. Oh, well, I mean, like, I meant to like heavy in the means of like in power, like because he's about to retire, but he can't because the company still needs him and stuff. But Jack Black is this like kind of he's like 36 years old. He's a computer programmer.
Jack Black.
He's Jack Black.
he's also the only one who's not married in this movie.
That's true.
Well, he's
that's
divorced.
True.
Yeah,
and that's
separated.
weird. Divorce is like a really common theme in the movie, I guess, because like Owen Wilson is kind of on the verge of divorce. Steve Martin, I think, is the only one who had like a good marriage, and then in pre-text they said that Jack Black was divorced or something like that. And so maybe this is just like a weird thing of like, wow, I'm gonna like push away all my marital responsibilities and go bird watching for a year because it's a lot better than this particular situation.
So yeah, Owen Wilson has the world record for the most birds.
The world record, not
Yes.
within this group.
It was like 737 or something like that.
And he's on the cover of like Bird magazine too.
How many wives did he say he had?
We know that he's at least on his third wife, who's Rosamund Pike.
Who's Rosamund Pike?
He's on his third wife in this movie. Maybe there have been more. We don't know. But it seems like birding has separated all of these marriages.
Yeah.
Because he just takes it so seriously.
We're gonna get that classic driving to the airport. I'm sorry, it was all about the birds at first, but then something happened. I really like you.
It's for the birds, baby.
It's for the birds, baby.
And that's kind of like a main part of the movie is watching these guys abandon
It's
civilization.
It's pretty like depressing.
So, my question is, obviously the cast is like they're like comedy people. So this is a comedic film.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a comedy, but in like a weird way. It's
It has like
it's
dramatic
also kind of
aspects
like.
of
I mean,
Todd
yeah,
Gurley,
that's big.
like how that,
The
yeah,
front of the
Jack Black-
box says a comedic dream team,
Yeah, that's true.
which
Okay,
they
good.
are.
And I think we should maybe throw out there that it does have a very silly, often stupid premise, but we didn't like dislike the movie, at least not
No.
strongly. I thought it's a very average film.
Yeah.
We had a ton of fun watching it though, just because like the premise is so ridiculous, and John Cleese is narrating, and
He narrates it like in the vein of like Richard Attenborough's
Yeah.
like Planet Life stuff. So like he's talking about Jack Black's character. He calls him the programmer, and he'll be like, "The programmer in his natural habitat."
That's cool.
It's
cool.
pretty fun. I like that a lot.
However, like the story itself is just kind of like a weird kind of small premise and stuff, which I think kind of fits this particular film well, considering that it's about bird watching,
Yeah.
and maybe that's not the most exciting subject for most people, but yeah, I honestly thought it was like it was like a cute film. It was just enjoyable.
And it does kind of make you think bird watching is a little bit cool. Maybe not even cool is the right word. Like it's not like a cool
not
thing to do, but like you're like, oh, I get it. Like these guys love something, and I can appreciate their appreciation for it.
So my question is it kind of like tagged? Have they been doing this for years and like they've been like friends for a long time? Or is this just, like,
they
something-
all just met during this competition, like of the year.
So a competition, this is like an official thing. There's like awards and everything, or like how do they officiate this thing?
That's not really clear. How do they officiate this?
There are awards. It's like in a magazine every year who the winner of the big year is. I guess you like send in your list at the end of the year with like what birds you saw and where to the magazine, and then the magazine publishes the winner. But it's not like shepherded or herded. Like when you think of competition, you think of like everybody's here at this point or there at that point. Like they're
It just kinda-
constantly together. No,
Yeah.
it's like these guys are living their lives, just kind of seeing birds here and there, and then meeting randomly throughout.
It's a very casual thing.
Got
Yeah.
you. Does it have like those scenes where like it's like, oh no, I saw the bird first, and they have like some weird like
No.
interaction or
Two
something?
people can see the same bird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're both there, you both get the bird.
What's like the conflict of the film? Like,
Their wives and father
It-
don't like them bird watching,
It's mostly other people, and they're
Yeah.
just really.
and they want to beat 737. Well, so if you can't afford to watch Birds of Prey, you can watch other people watch some birds of prey. Yeah.
That's true.
So would we all recommend seeing this instead of paying full price for Birds of Prey?
no.
Yes.
As the resident DC fan, I would probably say no.
As a person who isn't into the DC universe as much as you, I would probably say that this film is an adequate substitute. So yes.
Jeez.
So it was big half and half there. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of Nerd Central. We have been the best take on Slightly Off. And stay tuned for Nermageddon, which is coming up next.
Next.